In this video, I want to talk about how functions can help us create a library. And what is a library? A library is a collection of related code, basically a bunch of functions that can be stored in a file, and you can load those functions into your project. And the idea of this library is that you can use it in multiple projects, right? So maybe you've got some useful functions that could be used for project A, so you load that library.js, and then you have your main.js, and once you do this library.js, all the functions in here are accessible in your main.js. And then project B, you can load library.js and use it inside of that one, project C, etc. It's also a nice way that you've written some useful functions, you can share it with other people, and other programmers can use your libraries as well. Okay, so a couple of examples for you. One of the assignments we did was this robot face. I finished it off here. Let me just pull this open. And the idea here was that we simplified this robot face by adding this fill triangle, stroke triangle, fill circle, line functions. And all these functions are down here. Okay, so these are useful things. Instead of having to do this every time, I can just call that fill triangle function. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to say, well, you know what, let's take these functions and put them in a separate file. So in my project here, I'll make a new file called, what do I want to call it? Graphics library.js. Okay, and I'm going to take all of these functions and put them into my graphics library. Awesome. And maybe I can make a little comment here, you know, graphics library, maybe a little note, it requires a global canvas and context variables. Or we'll just say canvas and context. Right, because we need this context in order for it to work. So in here we need to make sure we have a context, and then we can use these functions. Okay, so if I do this now and we hit, make sure this is my active window, and I go live, we will see that there is a problem. Fill triangle is not defined. Well, this is a classic mistake, right? I put all those functions, fill triangle is inside of here. We need to go to our index.html and we need to actually load that library. So graphics library, right? This will actually run this script now, and this script doesn't do anything except for define these functions. So these functions are now defined. So now when I run my main.js, this has already happened. So main.js should now be able to use those functions, and ta-da, there we go. Okay, so this is great. It shows us how we can organize this one program that I separate the logical graphics functions into this file, and my main.js just does the drawings. But like I said, this graphics library can be used in multiple programs. So for example, let's say I wanted to start a whole new, I'm going to take my canvas animation template that I have here, and I'm just going to do I'm going to do a library graphics library test. Okay, and let's say inside of here I just wanted to make a new random drawing of some sort, some animation. Well, what I need is I need this file. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put it into here. Let's open this up with code now. First things first, before I forget, let's load that graphics library. Okay, so now that I've included this file as part of this new project, right, inside of my main.js, I can now use things like fill circle 200, 350, and maybe I'll go context.fill style as assigned balloon. Right, if I run this now, ta-da! Right, I've loaded that library in, and now I'm able to use these awesome things. Actually, let's do line now. Line, ooh, that's a cool autocomplete. So line from 2020 to 500, 300. Save that, and there we go. Okay, so as I said, we now have inside of this new program, we can load this graphics library. So we can add this to whatever programs where we want to make it simpler to draw stuff. Okay, another quick example I want to show you is I have this random number generator program. Oh, let's get rid of that. Make it a little bigger for you. Sorry, I should do that on the other one too. And let's just first see what this looks like. Okay, I don't need these ones anymore. And this one is basically, there's a drop-down menu, random decimal between 0 and 1. That's just math.random, random decimal between 0 and 50. We take math.random and times it by 50. Between -10 and 10, well, we have to times it by 20 and then subtract 10 in order to get the right values. An integer between 0 and 5, well, we have to take math.random, times it by 5, and then floor it so that we can get integers. And then between 1 and 11, we have to times math.random by 10 and then add 1 in order to get between 1 and 11, where 11 isn't included, right? It goes up to 11, so up to 10 essentially. Okay, so what I want to say in here is that in terms of this this program, all it's doing is saying, okay, whenever I click the button, I'm going to get the option from that drop-down menu, and depending on what the option is, I'm going to do this output element, right? I'm going to set the inner HTML of that output element to be either math.random, math.random times 50, math.random times 20 minus 10. But I'm going to suggest, like, man, this is annoying, right? If I want an integer from 1 to 11, well, I have to do all this math, right? I have to remember, okay, times by 10 and add 1. I wish that I had some sort of a function called, like even this is -10 to 10. Maybe a random decimal function where I can pass in a low and a high. Right? So here, if I want from 0 up to 50, I wish I could just go random decimal from 0 to 50. Right? If I want a random decimal from -10 to 10, I wish I could just go random decimal from -10 to 10. Right? Anyway, so the idea here is that let's do the math so that it works all the time. We're going to kind of abstract this. So I'm going to use math.random. I'm going to multiply by high minus low. Right? That's my range. I want a number from -10 to 10. So I want to times it by 20 to get my range of 20. But then I need to, I don't always want to start at 0, because this will give me 0 to 20, let's say. I need to go plus low. And that'll adjust the starting position. And what do I want this function to do? I want it to return the result of this calculation. Right? So now this is awesome. I don't have to do all the math every time. I can just go random decimal 0 to 50, random decimal -10 to 10. Let's see if that works. Where am I? Right here. So let's go 0 to 50. Looks like it's still working. Awesome. How about -10 to 10? Looks like it's still working. Good. Okay, and then, but also here, if I want a random integer, again, I wish that I could just go random int from 0 to 5, right? Where 5 is not, and I should make a note of that here, actually. Return a random decimal between low inclusive and high exclusive. Anyway, same thing for random int. Here too, I want from 1 to 11. I wish I could just go random int from 1 to 11. So function random int, low, high. And you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste this. Return a random integer between low and high. And it's basically the same as the random decimal, except we add a math.floor, which rounds it down. Right? This will get the random decimal, just like it did in this function, and then we floor it to get it to the decimal. And hopefully that works as well. So 1 to 11, but it doesn't include 11. The highest value should be 10, lowest value should be 1. And it looks like that's the case. Let's get another 10. Well, there it was. Okay. Okay, so again, right, that just simplified. In this case, we didn't actually, the functions didn't help us make the code more efficient. It just makes it a lot easier to read, right? Instead of having to do the math each time, it's just, hey, I want a random decimal between this and this. Okay, and again, in terms of a library, I could make a new thing called, I'm going to call it mathextensions.js. And that's because the random is part of math.random. So this is kind of adding on to the random capabilities. And inside of those math extensions, we're going to cut and paste these. Right? Math extensions, library, beautiful. And then in here, of course, this program won't work anymore. Right? Cannot find random decimal because in our index.html, we first need to load the library. Math extensions. And now those functions should be accessible. Okay, and again, this file now, if I want to use these math extensions in another program, I just have to copy and paste this file and put it into my project folder wherever I want to use it. Anyway, I'm going to leave that right now. Like I said, the key thing is putting those useful functions inside of a JavaScript file, and then we can include that JavaScript file as part of any project where we want to use those functions. Okay, super useful, super cool. This helps you visualize it, right? Useful functions in here can be loaded into multiple projects. Okay, that is it for this video. Hope that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.